So our topic today, Accreditation Manager, an unexpectedly exciting job. Because who knew that accreditation could be fun, and not just the background work. So introductions. I am Mélanie Cadart. I am the manager for the Quality and Accreditation Department of HEADway Advisory. And Adam, I will let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Adam Thomas. I work for a Swiss university. I've lived in Switzerland for 20 years. I know many of you. Hello, it's so great to see familiar faces and new faces as well. But I'm the Accreditation and Quality Manager at the University of St.Gallen. And I'm very happy to share some of my ideas and hear some of your ideas today about why this is an exciting job.
Great. I'll make just a quick introduction about HEADway Advisory. So we are a consulting firm specialized in higher education institutions, and we have several types of activities. The main one is strategy, basically. Any strategic matters for schools or higher education institutions. HEADway People is mostly headhunting services, executive search. Quality and Accreditation, that's us, and information and data, where we publish white papers, studies, and for French schools, we have this weekly newsletter with all the news about higher education in France and a little beyond the borders. So I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor to Adam.
Yes, so as Mélanie already indicated, this is more of a collaborative discussion. Of course, anyone that knows me knows that I love to talk, but of course I understand what I'm saying is just my experience. And just to clarify, they don't necessarily represent the views of my institution. This is quite a personal discussion. And I guess I'd start with the name of the talk today. Originally, the name was the most exciting, boring job there is. Yeah. So I just thought probably my institution would be, not everyone would understand that the way I intended it to be understood. But the basic premise is that I guess if I saw a job advertisement for an accreditation manager job, I would be very surprised if I would apply. But yeah. I'm very happy that I landed in the role that I have at the institution. So yeah.
Actually, if I may, it would be interesting to get feedback from our audience today, knowing how you arrived in your accreditation role. For those of you who actually work accreditations, were you in a school before, or did you apply like out of the blue for accreditations? Because as we all know, there is no degree in accreditation, so you cannot train for this really. So either if you want to speak up or write in the conversation section, feel free to share your experience.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, what am I going to share?
Oh, you're breaking up.
Is it a little better? Or?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. The kids aren't on PlayStation yet, so it should be okay. So I think everything from my previous jobs that I've had, also the education that I've had, as Mélanie said, as far as I know, there's not necessarily a degree specifically for quality management. There's a lot of things that are relatable, transferable, which we'll talk about, and I hope you guys have some good ideas to share as well. But everything from working on a farm when I was 10 years old, it was actually my father's first job as well at the same farm, to work to landscaping, and then my degrees in biology, teaching and didactics, all of these things very much helped me in the role that I have today. Thinking about the farm, walking around the institution, a mentor said to me a long time ago, if there's a mess in the hallway, this leader didn't necessarily expect me individually to take care of the mess per se, but you never know when the CEO of a company is going to walk through the door to meet about an important project, and you want to make sure that your institution you have some level of ownership. So to make sure that things are taken care of. And I think, if you walk into an institution and there's a mess, like simple things, the trash cans are full or overflowing, then, it sends a message to external stakeholders, specifically maybe students as well, that, if you can't handle the simple stuff, then, there could be some questions about the more complicated things. So just to really get off on a tangent to start. With my degrees in natural sciences, my analytical skills are used daily. I think we all are looking at Excel or using Power BI, or statistical analysis are necessary. But also what I noticed through the natural sciences was part of my degree was writing short, focused reports, no schnick schnuck, and also being able to convey complex information in a way that, at least in my degree, we were explained that, our mothers or our fathers should understand what we're talking about without the degree that we have. And I think, yeah, so, and that led me to my education degree, so teaching and didactics, which of course I think as well, conveying information more, setting up projects, planning, lesson planning is very relatable to planning any projects. So that's really good. Also working closely with management of schools or universities as a teacher. They rely on you to follow through on what you're trying to do. Yeah. So, and also as a teacher, I thought a lot about, if I choose to do something a certain way, how will my stakeholders understand it? How could they misunderstand it? And continuously trying to evolve that process, which I would say is one of the most fun things, right? I don't know anybody, maybe somebody in the meeting today has this magical talent, but I've never read an email to, 20, 30, 100 people that every single person has understood in the same way. And I love that, but I also hate it sometimes. And then, and that sort of filters through the job as an accreditation manager is, how do you balance the time and energy put into each of these individual steps with different stakeholders, and, how can you anticipate the outcome?
And I would say that one of the main differences about how you interact with stakeholders, I mean, among your stakeholders, the main different kind of people is faculty has a really special way how this should be approached, especially about accreditations, and the administrative staff is very different. And I think it really depends on your position in the school, whether you're a faculty or not, or if you're just administrative staff, because there's always kind of this gap between the two, two populations, I would say. And this is what I've experienced working as an accreditation manager in my former school. I was only staff, and there was this kind of like invisible barrier between us staff and them faculty, So I think the way you address these different types of people, of groups, is really important, because you don't talk to staffs the way you talk to faculty, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it also really depends on the context, right? So, I've worked at 2 institutions now. I've talked to a lot of different institutions, and many of you in the room as well. And yeah, and one of my challenges currently is, we have a new president's board, and just trying to figure out how, who responds to an MS Teams message, who never looks at it, who responds to an email, who is it totally a waste of time to even send an email to, and how do I find out who to write to get person X, Y, or Z to respond or engage, and then, and then you have the challenge of being criticized, because all of a sudden you've gotten through to the person after 2-3 months of trying to inform them of something, and now they're surprised and feel stressed. And so thinking about those things. And I guess my general approach is really to be flexible, sort of to have a framework, I think the framework approach I learned a bit through, I guess, honestly, not to plug an application, but Academ. I worked with Gael on implementing Academ. I don't know, I guess probably 2 or 3 times because I messed it up a couple times. So a learning process. But yeah, just really, trying to have a framework that each individual can fit into in a way that progresses the things we're trying to achieve. Yeah.
We've got a couple of replies in the conversation talking about the background before coming to accreditation, and the responses that we have. People were already in the school or in a school before that. So people are, yes, Annette is, no, Deborah, sorry, is saying that she came from the legal sector to higher education sector, but was working with alumni relations and fundraising before, jumping into accreditation. And Annette was saying that it's her first time working in higher education, but has worked on accreditation for museums. So there's that side about quality and accreditation in other fields, and getting into accreditation in higher education, or being in higher education and then moving on to accreditation. I feel that this is the most common type of access to accreditation roles, of already being in the school, knowing the works. Because I don't know, maybe Annette, you can share the differences, but I think accreditations or quality in other sectors are still very different from higher education that it's a very specific world.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, it's much more rigorous and robust, I would say, with regards to the business school accreditation. So that's been quite a culture shock. But the process-wise, very familiar in terms of kind of the how-to, and some of the skill set definitely kind of transferable. What you were saying about that kind of communication skills, and particularly the kind of the project management as well. That feels very familiar. So yeah, it's not a dramatic culture shock. It's just got that extra layer, I guess, of kind of the weird and wonderful world of HE to sort of throw into the mix, which I've been grappling with. But yeah, nothing like a crash course to keep you interested, is there? So all good.
Exactly. A good conference and a good murder mystery, right? So several of us were attending a conference at Liverpool last week. So that's how we saw each other really recently.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, Annette, you mentioned entering the sector and some transferable skills, obviously, and some things are obvious, some things are new and confusing. And the interesting thing for me, taking on my first role, I transitioned from sort of like a faculty manager and being a faculty member at one institution, and I was asked to support the project in accreditation. And sort of the first phase of that was really trying to understand the accreditation standards, meet people. I mean, I'm not going to say one accreditation agency is vastly different, and there's not friendly people at each event or through each agency. But I felt fortunate that the first accreditation that I really interacted with was ACSB. The liaison, Marine, was amazing. The colleagues there, Tim Meskin, and then very quickly you start meeting people like Chris Vert, Sarah Vaughan, Isabelle Fagnot, and the rest of the gang.
You're just dropping names of people who aren't there.
I know. I'm so offended they didn't show up.
Yes, I know.
This is my moment. But
let's send a message.
But yeah, so the challenge in the Swiss context, at least, and I don't know, I see plenty of French schools and some UK schools, is ACSB is American generally. I mean, originally it's American, but obviously they've progressed rapidly over the last 10 years. So it was really the advantage that the university at the time saw in me was being American, also being integrated into Swiss culture. I could, provide some confidence that I could translate what the Americans are trying to say and help the Swiss understand, who are very, precision oriented, like a Swiss watch, that if the Americans say this, we have to do that exactly like that. And, and then finding out what schools really do and what they don't do. So that was quite a journey the first 2-3 years. And interesting. I mean, it's you're sort of trying to assemble a puzzle using different puzzle pieces from different puzzles, and making sure they fit together the best they can. And then I was really fortunate that I had some opportunities to present with people like Stephanie Morgan and trying to think who else, John Cootie from the US. So AACSB asked me to be engaged with some of their events, which was really cool. I know a few of you through those events. And this helped me understand really what hundreds of other schools are doing, what they're struggling with. Something that I still see today is schools entering the accreditation process. And I'm trying to be a little bit more vocal about that to make sure they know that they have support from all of us. There is some anxiety entering the process and understanding and misunderstanding some things. I'm sure we're all guilty of pushing an initiative forward that probably wasn't the right initiative at the right time. But generally, I think I've learned from those and it's worked pretty well.
And I think also, you know how when we attend conferences or seminars, we get all these great ideas from other schools. And I remember at first when I was attending conferences or seminars, and I would get these ideas and I would send messages and emails to, whoever was pertinent at my school saying, oh, we should do this, we should do that. And after a while, you realize that it's not possible to get all the best practices in place in your school. So you have to, I think one thing you develop after a while is also some critical thinking in the accreditation frameworks, thinking, okay, this is a great example, but I don't see our school doing it anytime soon. So let's keep that, in a corner of my mind. And but we cannot do everything all at once. So have to pick and choose what we want to push on our school, saying that, okay, this would really help us towards accreditation, but you cannot do everything.
Yeah, and it definitely, it takes some courage to stand up sometimes and, maybe say some things that people don't want to hear. And I always appreciate when Sarah Vaughn talks or Bjorn at events. They're open and they're not afraid to share their opinion, whether it's going to make an agency happy or not. I mean, it's important that some of these things are discussed. And I feel like that's sort of my transition from phase 2 to phase 3, maturing in the role and feeling more comfortable to raise issues that should be raised.
Indeed. And yeah, it's getting more confident in our role as accreditation people, but also within the school, now obviously I'm a consultant, so I'm not in a school, but I work with many schools. So I have even more like a broader vision about what's possible and what's not possible. And I think experience really helps understand the limits, understand the expectations of each agency, really, and it really helps. It takes a while, I think, to get the hang of the job. Really, I don't know how long it took all of you to feel comfortable in your accreditation roles, but I know that for me, it took me about a year. I had a few months of maternity leave in between, but it took me about a year to actually feel like I understood what AACSB was about, really.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange situation to, have the dean or the president of the university, asking you something that they rely on your understanding of that topic. And some of the things are fundamentally potentially changing the institution, related to research performance or faculty qualifications, AOL, just to name a few topics. But yeah, I thought, so maybe in the chat you can put how long it took you to transition and feel really confident in understanding the standards and what your mentor or your liaison with EFMD or AACSB or whoever, how long it took you to feel comfortable. For me,
I agree with Deborah saying that she's been doing it for 6 years, and it's always a learning curve. It's academic year for Nathalie. Yes,
I like
exactly.
that, the academic year.
You feel uncomfortable again. That's right. You have to start, because then exactly you feel comfortable with one accreditation, and then you have to do another one. It's like, oh, so you cannot just apply what you've learned on that accreditation to the other one. So you have to relearn everything. So, and then they have those new standards. So then you have to relearn everything.
Yeah.
8 months.
I mean, I also feel like ACSBs, the last 6 years have gone through some key transitions, and I really appreciate Stephanie Bryant's white papers, or the committees producing white papers. That's really helped to clarify things. And now I feel like the organizations like AMBA and EFMD, they don't compare themselves to ACSB in any way, but I feel they're in a more transitional stage at the moment. Some things are moving, and some ideas are coming forward, and they're trying to evolve. Whereas I feel like ACSB is in a really good spot. I mean, of course, they changed the 6-year period, but that's, it's not a fundamental
the main
change,
was the 2020 standards, and I think it's gonna stay a while like this.
And so before I share what I love about the job, things like just to put ideas, not that I love or hate any of these, but just to get you thinking, like writing, planning, initiating projects, standing in front of the executive committees, or going to events, traveling maybe. So if in the chat you could write down what you love about the job, and see if any of them overlap with what I love about the job.
I know that one thing I really appreciated, because I used to work, I started at my business school working for the promotion department, like student fairs and everything, organizing all these things. So I had a very operational view of what the school was doing. And then starting to work in accreditation, you start, dealing with strategy, with faculty. I had no interaction with faculty before that. And you see your school as a whole, and I really like that. Yes, receiving the letter. Exactly.
That's something that
I
love as well, but at the same time, I need to work on, we received the letter, and in Liverpool, I mentioned this a little bit, that, now what, right? If you think about research is the really hard part. Achieving the accreditation letter is a really hard part. Now sort of marketing it. And I know some institutions are amazing, right? I mean, the Financial Times rankings were released on Monday, and these schools have these amazing videos marketing it, and probably confusing the hell out of students, thinking that all their programs are ranked number 7.5. So letter. Yeah.
People oriented.
It's a strange mix of introverted qualities and extroverted qualities, I find. Yes,
I agree. And the introvert part was a big cultural change also for me, because working on promotion, I was working with students constantly. Every break during the day, we had at least 15 students in the office. It was really, all over the place. And then from the next day, I was working accreditation, sitting behind my computer and not seeing anyone anymore. So that was, I learned how to work on my own, but with a lot of different stakeholders. So that was very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it is people oriented, but with not that big an interaction as you can get in other positions at the school.
It reminds me before I really committed to the teaching faculty roles, I worked at the University of, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ETH in Zurich. I worked for free, so, I wasn't really selected doesn't mean very much, but I worked for PhD students, helping them with their research. And I just noticed very quickly, being in the lab all day alone was not for me. The humming and buzzing made me a little sleepy, and even at the team events, there was not a lot of conversation. So, so I did realize that maybe, heading into the teaching area, I'd been teaching English when I first moved to Switzerland, and that's why I pursued a master's in teaching following that.
And I was going to say that another positive aspect, I think, of our job is this type of things and events and sharing and being a community, really. There is, in France, and I know that some countries have kind of the equivalent. We have this group of schools, business schools, and we have work groups of accreditation people. And it really helped me when I first started. But the French, they don't like to share much. Okay, so I had to let them be comfortable about sharing their experience, because everyone always feels that, oh, they're going to steal some ideas and they will be better than us and they will steal our students. So, but after a while, you feel really comfortable with that group, and you start sharing experience kind of openly, and it really helps, because first it makes you realize that you're not the only one to struggle on a given subject, and then you can get support. And I know that while writing reports when I was starting, I didn't really know what it should look like. So I asked a few schools, and some of them shared actually their reports with me in confidence, obviously, but that really, really helped. So I like the support and the community around this.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a very strange role, right? And in sort of the German-speaking region of Europe, we have a group which I guess, to be honest, I went to a conference once, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago before COVID, and it was called Third Space. If you Google it, different things come up. No guarantee there, but Third Space is basically, the description of it is you're sort of sandwiched between staff and faculty and administration. So you have to think about the two hats you're wearing, and I think of that a lot, because it puts us in a weird place where I mean, I don't know about you necessarily. I know there's potentially some associate deans of quality in the room, or you have different stakeholders that hold that title, but I don't, and I literally have no responsibility to impact any of the things related to accreditation, other than just making sure that the report's ready, the peer review team knows where they're staying in the hotel, somebody picks them up at the airport, or they know how to get on the train, and that hopefully we've improved on some of the feedback that we received in the last visit. But technically, I like that aspect of the job. Technically, I'm not responsible for making any of those changes, but I'm very responsible for convincing and making sure that those changes happen. So talking to people and convincing them to invest time, energy, resources into things that they don't necessarily care about.
But sometimes it can also be frustrating, because you see what should be done. You try to get people to actually do stuff at your school, and they don't, and it impacts your chances to be accredited or reaccredited, and you don't have the power or authority to do anything. You know what I mean? So I've encountered those types of situations where it's just give me the keys, I'll drive the car, let me do it.
Yeah, and that's I guess, to be really honest, that's one of the things that frustrates me as I've gained more and more experiences. The first 3, 4, 5 years, when, and I'll be honest as well, I mean, I didn't come up with magical solutions. I talked to stakeholders, and I talked to some of you about ideas you had, and the struggles I'm having, and if you have ideas that I could use and how I could adapt those at my institution. That was incredibly helpful. I remember calling so many people and having great conversations that fundamentally helped what I was trying to do, and I'm incredibly thankful for that. The first 5 years, I was really proud that the ideas that I shared with the institution internally were accepted, and the responses were generally positive. Now, as I'm getting a little bit older and more experienced, I keep on thinking, well, shouldn't I get a little bit more recognition for that? I mean, I'm suggesting solutions to people that are getting paid 3 times as much as I am. And at some point, I think about that a little bit. Not that I need more money. I'm
No, but
definitely
still,
get
I
a
mean,
fair salary, but I just feel like, at some point, I'm hoping somebody's going to be like, hey, the last 10 ideas Adam suggested, whether they were his or not, they were good ideas, and the implementation was good, and yeah. So
it's kind of a in the shadows type of job, and yeah, sometimes it gets a little difficult.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. I mean, we all have egos, right? And
Yeah.
when we know that we're doing something good, we actually want to be recognized for it. So I have this one instance where I actually created something that my boss used with the ministry. And I heard, because I was in the next room of the Teams meeting, and she was congratulating him, saying, "Oh, that's wonderful." He hadn't done anything, and it's just all my doing. It's like, if only you knew. But I did get a thank you from my boss, because he knew that I heard that, But yeah, sometimes it's can get a little touchy on the subjects.
Yeah.
Little
And
recognition.
so definitely, comes what definitely motivates me in the job is like this endless puzzle that always needs to be rebuilt and put together. And that is something I love thinking about. I love riding my bike in the Swiss Alps, and, I try not to think about work too much, but, there's those special moments where you're like, I know where that puzzle piece fits. And I love those moments.
The aha moment.
Totally. Usually happens at about 2:30 in the morning when I wake up.
And then you're too tired to write it down, but
No. I usually write it down.
you
The
do?
first thing I get up, I'm like, I need to write that. Yeah. I need to map that out or draw a picture, or I very early on I noticed, and I already talked about that, but like the network, I at first for maybe a couple of weeks I was jealous hearing about, the French schools and in the UK and Ireland. I think there's a very, very strong network. And from a very young age, I always just tried to mimic what I admired. So I set up a network in Switzerland. It's slowed down now that there's quite a saturated market in Switzerland of accredited schools, but that's something we can talk about later. But yeah, the networking and the support that's out there is amazing. So I've definitely called plenty of people. Some of you, if anyone has a challenge that they're trying to work on and just want to bounce an idea off of somebody, I'm always happy to get an email. If I have no idea, or if I know somebody better to respond, then I'll point you in the right direction. I don't claim to have the answers to all questions, but yeah, I definitely appreciate that.
And in that sense, I think that ACSB, the exchange, is a good place to ask questions and get answers or feedback or ideas from a lot of schools. And there again, I think that French schools tend to not share enough. It's a lot of American schools, really. But you get from all around the world, really. But I'm always surprised at how few French schools actually participate in the conversations, because I find them amazingly interesting and useful. And even if you struggle with one technical aspect of how do you do that table and everything, you can just ask, and there's no shaming of any kind. And I like the support that we get from other accreditation people, really. And I don't know if there are that many jobs where you can actually say that, feel the support of the community, because I don't think there's competition, really. Even in schools that are competitors, accreditation people talk to each other and kind of share experiences. So I like the spirit, really. It's kind of like heal the world.
Kumbaya, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, I don't want to plug things, but I mean, the event in Liverpool, I always forget, it's a conference for quality, impact, ranking managers or something?
Well, it's QIA. So
QIA. Okay.
yes,
So
quality
that
assurance, impact, and something else for the last
Yeah.
A. I don't remember.
that event really, I typically go to the other events trying to find, my people, the people that are in my corner, and
One of us.
yeah, one of you. Usually I see 3, 4, 5 of you there, but the EFMD event that's now running in its second year, and I think it'll definitely keep on running. I mean,
It's a
for
great
me,
event.
that is so much like being at home. It's really amazing.
That's exactly the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yes. Like, where is next year?
Ooh, I want to say Barcelona.
Yeah.
Is it Barcelona?
Yes, that's what it is.
Yes.
Sunny. Cool.
But yeah, so
Little sunnier
if
than
you haven't
Liverpool.
been, I mean, I saw many of you there. I definitely recommend going if you can make it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there is a busy conference schedule, and you have to pick and choose a bit, or at least I do. So I haven't been to a lot of the other events this year, but that is definitely one I will, as much as possible, go to every year.
I agree, and it's very practical too. I like the format that it's not just conferences session, where people talk. There's a lot of interaction. You have little workshops. The ice breaking is always great, and so it's really enjoyable.
Yeah. So a good question from Natalie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what I try to do is I try to infiltrate, and I know that word has a slightly negative connotation, but I try to infiltrate, the silos at my institution. And I sort of set myself some challenges. If I hear about a group or a meeting that's really hard to get invited to, I try and map out the people involved in those meetings and run into them by chance. One idea that I had, which I haven't done yet, but my plan was to. I assume at your institutions there's open desks in many of the offices. So I was planning once a month to really just go to a different office and, I mean, ask them permission, of course, and just work there for the day and see who I encounter. I'm sure I'll see some familiar faces. I'm sure I'll see some new faces. I know about a year ago I was eating lunch in one of the other offices, and I just had an incredible conversation with researchers, research assistants there about what they're doing. They didn't really know about accreditations, but I was able to, highlight how accreditations really actually cares about what they're doing and why that's important, and the expectations from that direction. So I try to, put myself in places where the people that I should encounter might be. Another thing I have is in my office, I have a whiteboard, and I have sort of not key challenges, but key ideas written on the whiteboard. And I'm lucky because I have a main meeting room right next to my office. So some of those key people walk by my office. And when they do, they're always wondering who works in this weird small corner office. So they tend to peek in. And then I have the whiteboard ready. So if HR is walking by, I can be like, hey, the last 2 months, I noticed X, Y, and Z. Could we talk about that at some point? And then they're like, wow, who is this guy? And why does he know this information? So they're very impressed and interested and curious. So I try to raise the curiosity bar. But yeah, I'm sure any other ideas from the audience?
Well, Deborah is sharing that she's done a few internal presentations to other teams across the university to explain why she might be asking for them for data. But it helped. Yes, it helped raise the profile of the accreditations. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. But we have a problem of being known. People don't know what an accreditation is, basically. And it gets sadder when it's within your institution that people don't know what it's about. So they think you're just filling out reports and that's it. There's a lot of misconceptions about the job that we do. So I guess having conversations, I know that I try to communicate on LinkedIn and, do things. I had made a little post about sharing that experience of when you say, when you tell people your job and you have that blank look because they have no idea what you're talking about. And then you try to explain what you're doing and you still get that blank look because obviously they still haven't understood what it takes to do that job. Okay, so if an creation is coming up, getting onto the faculty welcome or welcome back program is a good idea. Yep. And also used to be embedded in our QAS team reporting directly to the QAS director. Oops, it moved. It was a really good hybrid position, allowing for a 2-day flow of information and understanding. Yeah, I think if you can be in situations or places where you have a lot of your different stakeholders, that's a good way to actually share about what you're doing. You could, and I think it's important to have the support of your top management in communicating about what you do.
I think that's the most disastrous situation I've heard of, like a new dean or president comes in and somehow they were hired and they don't care about accreditations, and those schools and those managers really, really struggle. And usually, unfortunately, it's a couple of years of difficulty. But yeah, and yeah, following the letter, right? Following the letter, figuring out a way to communicate that, celebrate it, but also highlight the feedback. And I think the more transparent you can be about the feedback across the university, actually, the more, effective the next report might be, because more people know about it. So.
But yes, and I'll go back to celebrating. A lot of schools don't really take the time to actually celebrate success or work, because sometimes you don't always have success, but you still need to take the time and acknowledge the effort that's been, put towards the accreditation, or involve the stakeholders, not just to ask them things, about data and information. They need to see the result for it. So I know that's something that I talked about in the session I did in Liverpool, but
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, and generally what I love about the job is that it requires such a diverse set of skills. Some of those things I'm not good at, some of those things I feel like I'm quite good at. And it's also cyclical. So, right now, the next 2 years, I'm looking at a window where we can really develop some of those things. I can work on some of my weaknesses. I can develop as an employee at the university. And I really appreciate that time to step back, reflect, think about the accreditations. The school has time to think about it, and improve not just myself, but hopefully the institution.
I like Natalie's comment saying that they actually work with the students to communicate about accreditation. It's true that it's important that your students know what accreditations are, because I used to do this when working with students. Like every year, I would do a little presentation about accreditations, and it's like, how many of you know ACSB? So you would see hands, rising. How do you know EFMD or EQUIS, or a couple of hands, not as many. Do you know what this means? And no one was able to say. It's just something that you have or you don't have, but they don't know what's behind that. So I think it's good to actually educate your students about accreditations.
Yeah.
CEO tells you to congratulate any improvement following what I'm asking, even if it's just 10% of what I asked. Be patient and be nice.
I think, I mean, that's a good point, right? Because
Yes.
not everything's going to change in 1 year. So I think it's healthy to have some high expectations, but realistic expectations. I mean, don't be afraid to be surprised by things that you initiate or conversations that you have, but it might take, 5 years to actually impact some things. So think about that.
Yes, and also because you mentioned our initial title for this webinar contained the word boring. It's something I think you might get also, people looking at you like, oh, that must be so boring, your job. And they don't realize the span.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean,
so cool.
We're hype, you know.
I talked to everyone from the custodial staff. I talked to the president, everybody in between, and there's so many amazing people at my institution. I would imagine it's the same case at your institutions. But I realize time's running out, or it ran out. I do have one request. If anyone has a 1-sentence explanation that I can give my mother and father that she actually understands what I do, that would be amazing. Every time I go home, I try to re-explain it, and I haven't been successful. My friend, I mean, all my friends have no idea what I do.
No one. Honestly,
So, yeah.
my best friend knows, because she's very work oriented and everything. But other than that, no one. My husband doesn't know. My family doesn't know. My sisters, no one. I've explained it numerous times. Also, they just don't get it, because it doesn't register, because it's not something that's known. You know, if you were a baker, or even if you were a teacher or something, the people know the words, so it sticks.
Yeah.
My daughter actually asked me, what is your real job besides being on the phone all the time? Yes, exactly. So my son said, I don't want to do your job. It seems boring. Mm-hmm. How do you get that? I'm always excited about my job, you know. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, he gave me an explanation about, I don't know, I don't remember. It's like one very specific aspect of my job. It's like, no, you know, that's not all it is. It's actually... Oh my God, I'm so glad it's you who's doing it and not us. That's true. That is true. That's what also we can get. They deflect on you, you know.
So I just wanted to add also, like, some of my hopes and dreams after being in the role now for almost 10 years. I feel like agencies could use us more. I can't say how many times I've talked to deans, even peer review team members who, haven't read the standards maybe ever, and are confused or confusing some of the standards, which concerns me a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think the agencies have a very strong resource among us as accreditation managers, maybe being more involved in committees and task forces, etc. Maybe even visits someday. I know what I would fear most about a visit. Not that I would want to put that on any of you, but I know where the things are that should be checked to see if an AOL system is actually running, and if a school should spend a little bit more time and energy focusing on something like that. So another thing is related to data. I really thought technology over the last 10 years would advance much more quickly. I'm still more or less doing what I did with data about 10 years ago. Maybe there's some better lists. There's some, so AI, of course, can help with that. That's my next phase, is looking into that, how I can cleanse data with AI. If any of you have tips, please send me an email. Fears from my side are the form and function of universities in the next 10 years. What is the university going to look like? What's my institution going to look like? A lot of universities, even in Switzerland now, are facing tighter budgeting constraints. So something to think about. Saturation of accreditations. There are now a lot of schools that they wanted to be unique by gaining ACSB, AMBER, EQUIS accreditations. But I don't know about your markets, but our market is becoming quite saturated very quickly.
Same in France.
So the added value and student acquisition aspect is diminishing, I feel.
But you will see, there will be new accreditations,
Yeah, and they'll develop, of course, but yeah. So yeah. And yeah, I mean, just to close my part, I need to thank so many people. I can't name them all, but people like Stephanie Morgan, Chris Vert, I mean, Mélanie for including me in this talk and good conversations. Sarah Vaughn for being so inspirational. Marine, Isan, the agencies. So yeah.
Thank you for not saying that I'm inspirational. So Marie-Pierre asked a few questions in the conversation. So we have little time left, but maybe you can copy paste. So actually, Marie-Pierre is working with me as part of her studies. So you know, you can send your replies. Maybe Marie-Pierre, you can put your email address in the conversation because she needs to get feedback from professionals for her thesis. So if you can help, that would be nice.
Will we get a copy of the results or outcomes of the thesis?
I don't know. Will you
Maybe
share
not
the
the full
results?
text, but a summary. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm actually working. It's just I have a hard time finding the time to work on the survey that I carried a few months ago about the impact of accreditations on your institutions. And I have like something like 77 responses, which is actually pretty good. I'm working on getting the results together, and I thought you had invited students from schools to try to convince them to become. I wish we could do that. Convince students to become future accreditation managers, but it's just not the dream job, you know. And honestly, if they only knew how much job opportunities there are, they would sign up right away. You know, it's just, I wish there was a way to actually present. We've at HEADway, we've actually thought about opening some training of some sort, you know, towards accreditation, but it's just not sexy enough to get students in, you know. But I don't know. Nicolas? Your mic is off. Do I need to allow the mic? No.
I remember when I first took the job
Okay.
involved in accreditations and met a colleague on the street, and he was like, "What are you doing? Why would you do that? You have no career progression chances whatsoever. That is such a dead-end job."
Exactly. And because we have recruitment services at HEADway, and accreditation managers is a role that is really sought after, you know, and we have a hard time actually, you know, finding candidates and offering them to schools. So still managed to do it, but it would be so much simpler if there was like a pool of students coming out of accreditation academy. You know? I think we need to do this. I don't know. We just, but no, it's not sexy enough for students. But you know, we can try that.
I mean, it seems to match the expectations that I understand from the younger generation, that, you know, they want variety, they want some freedom, yeah. I mean, it allows, like, there's weeks where I need to be in the office, and there's weeks that nobody cares where I am as long as I'm working on an accreditation report. And I love that. I can go to the mountains, I can go to the US, hang out with my family and work. And
you make it sound so fun. Hang out in the mountains,
yeah.
hang out in the US. You know? This is not every accreditation manager who can do that.
Exactly. And then you get the email, "Oh, what about this?" And you're like, "Oh crap. Nope, I don't have that yet. Give me a day."
Back to reality.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being able to coordinate 100 different things and not let anything fall through the crack is definitely a skill that I try to be successful at. I make mistakes, but you know, it makes the job fun, but it also.
And also, you know, depending on how many accreditations you have to deal with, you either do it alone or you do it with a team. So that's another aspect of the job, is the management of your team and the distribution of labor and who's doing what. Do you specialize in one accreditation, or do you want everyone to be able to work on any type of accreditation? Because then if that one person is sick, how do you manage, you know? And if you're the only one doing it at your school, which was my case before, then, you know, they have a lot of pressure and responsibility. Well, I guess we all have a lot of pressure regarding accreditations because it's such high stake for schools. But, you know, that's what makes it fun also. If there was no stake, I mean, you know, why would you do it, really? So do we all agree that it's actually a good job? Challenging,
Amazing
but fun.
Yeah. You get to travel a little bit and
and talk in sessions. So actually, yes, it's something. It was my goal when I started accreditations. I saw people that I knew up there, speaking at sessions, like, oh, I want to do that one day. And because my school was not accredited yet, I was not allowed to do it. And now being a consultant was even more challenging because, I could be seen as the enemy of accreditation. But I've had that opportunity in Liverpool and I really enjoyed it. So it's like little perks of the job. You meet amazing people. Yes. Oh,
The best.
Who was
We're
the
the
nerd?
best.
Did Adam said something about nerds?
Oh, I feel like, where was it? Somebody said, Bjorn was talking about nerds,
Oh,
or
Bjorn?
somebody was, maybe Isabel during the conference, I forget, but.
Yes, we're a little bit of accreditation nerds. That's true. I think it was Bjorn. Well, thank you for spending lunchtime with us.
Surprised nobody was eating.
Yeah, well, UK people is still early, right? It's the right time to finish and go have lunch. French people are getting hungry. Well, thank you. Next one is in the works. It's supposed to be with someone from drawing a total blank. I don't know. It has to
French accreditation agency or
no. It's about sustainability.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay.
You'll know. You'll get the email.
We'll get the notification.
Yes, exactly. That's true. I had it actually. I read it right before the webinar, saying, "Oh yes, I will talk about it." That's a miss.
So I would just close my side and just say, don't be afraid to reach out to me or anybody else. There's so many cool people in these roles. And it's so fun to talk to different people and hear what they're doing and see maybe they have a solution to something that your school's struggling with. And I know my managers love hearing examples from other schools so that it gives confidence in what we're trying to do to make sure we're not totally getting off track, because it's, it's not, with ACSB's principles, it's not, there's not one way to do it. So something that's exciting.
True. Yep, exactly. Well, see you at the next conference. Anyone going to Budapest next week? Oh, come on, people. Natalie. I'll see you there. And I'm not attending Bologna, but because it's too much, but see you then, I guess, in next year's conferences.
Yes. Or
Budapest,
the fall,
cool.
Right? Yeah.
In the fall, exactly. And obviously next month for the next webinar with my mystery guest.
Yes, mystery. We're excited.
I have totally forgot who it was. All right. Thank you. Take care.